If your harsh inner voice sounds like it's just being honest when attacking mistakes, you're listening to a survival strategy, not a measure of competence. Throughout this series, we have looked at common traits as nervous system adaptations. Burnout represented a forced physiological pause, overstimulation signaled a sensory threshold reached, and perfectionism functioned as a shield against perceived external judgment. Today, we apply this same lens to something often praised as self-awareness, the habit of self-criticism. The belief that harsh internal feedback creates accuracy collapses under scrutiny. In practice, the more punitive the internal voice becomes, the further it drifts from reality. Honesty evaluates behavior. I made a mistake. Self-criticism delivers a judgment of identity. I am an error. This triggers a biological threat response. Perceiving a threat to the self, the amygdala floods the system with stress hormones for defense. Because the nervous system prioritizes survival over learning, this state of internal alarm effectively shuts down the prefrontal cortex, the very part of the brain required for objective reflection and cognitive growth. You can identify the survival script through 6 clinical signs. The first is when a single error generates a universal verdict on your worth. Regardless of the mistake's size, the internal dialogue skips past the details and concludes with global statements of incompetence or inadequacy. There is no data in these statements. While "I missed the deadline" is a factual observation that leads to a solution, "I am useless" is an internalized assault that offers no path forward. While behavioral corrections allow for adjustment, these attacks on your identity serve only to accumulate psychological shame. The second sign involves a persistent mental rehearsal long after the event has passed. Your mind loops the mistake, obsessively searching for an alternate version of the past. It asks, "Why did I do that?" Not to solve a problem, but to prosecute the error. This replay keeps the body in a state of high alert. It maintains the stress response, which prevents the brain from entering the calm state required for neuroplasticity. The elevated cortisol from this constant rumination actually narrows your cognitive flexibility, making it harder to perform better in similar situations later. This feels like the process of learning, but it is actually the nervous system trapped in a state of internal prosecution. The third sign is the inability to disengage from the critical voice, even when you realize it's unhelpful. This persistence isn't a character flaw. It is evidence of a deeply ingrained survival loop. This conditioning often begins in environments where safety or approval was conditional. The brain learned mistakes led to punishment, developing a protective mechanism. By criticizing yourself first, your brain attempted to preempt and minimize the impact of external criticism. It was a strategy for safety. Though the original environment has changed and the threat has passed, the protective habit remains locked in place. This leads to the fourth sign, the conviction that the inner critic is telling the objective truth. Self-criticism is persuasive because it anchors its global judgments in real, observable events. It uses facts to justify a punitive narrative. Honest evaluation remains specific. Self-criticism relies on punitive distortion, using a single event to define your entire character. Forgetting a single email is a discrete event. Labeling yourself as useless because of that email is an identity-based narrative that prevents a simple fix. Honesty identifies a next step. Self-criticism induces the paralysis of shame. The fifth sign is the cultural belief that internal pressure is the primary driver of growth. You may fear that without this harshness, you will lose your motivation. This logic assumes that self-compassion is synonymous with a lack of standards. Clinical research suggests the opposite. High levels of internal criticism increase anxiety and weaken the executive functions required for complex problem solving. Neurological improvement requires a state of psychological safety. The brain cannot reorganize itself efficiently while it is under internal attack. The final sign is the mechanical minimization of your own successes. When you complete a task well, the voice immediately redirects focus to how it could have been better or why it doesn't prove your competence. Within the nervous system, celebration functions as a clinical feedback loop. It signals that a specific behavior was successful and should be repeated. By undercutting success, you block the dopamine reinforcement necessary to solidify new neural pathways. Without that reward signal, the system that drives long-term growth has no mechanism for reinforcement. What you perceived as a pursuit of excellence was actually a survival strategy designed to shield you from the perceived danger of being finished or seen. Resetting this system is not about silencing the inner voice, but retraining it to distinguish between data and defense. Step 1 is to label the pattern. When you catch the voice, name it as a global identity attack. This simple linguistic shift creates the distance needed to observe the thought rather than be consumed by it. Step 2, separate behavior from identity. Constantly ask, is this a specific action I can adjust, or am I treating my personality as the problem? Behavior is workable. Identity is not a target for correction. Step 3, adopt neutral language. Replace punitive judgments with observational data. Instead of, I failed, use, this outcome differed from the plan. What are the variables? This neutrality removes the internal threat, lowering the body's stress response and allowing the prefrontal cortex to come back online for actual problem solving. Step 4, allow the reward to land. When something goes well, pause for one full breath to acknowledge the success. This pause is a physiological requirement. It provides the feedback your nervous system needs to build a sustainable internal drive. We have seen throughout this series how behaviors like avoidance and emotional numbness served as protective strategies for the nervous system. Self-criticism follows that same logic. Your mind developed this voice to protect you from a perceived threat, not because you are fundamentally flawed. Sustainable growth requires a state of safety that internal protection cannot provide, just as objective accuracy requires a distance that prosecution lacks. When the harsh voice returns, ask, am I observing a behavior I can change, or am I attacking the person I am? The answer to that question determines whether you are stuck in a cycle of punishment or moving forward through feedback. If this series is helping you reframe the strategies your nervous system has been running, subscribe. Next, we examine why comparison is a social threat response that hijacks your focus. See you then.